All right then. Hello again, everybody. Let me see. Yes, I do see you all coming back. 42 of you are back already. So this is great. And I'm just going to confirm that you can see and hear us. I'm here with Ralph, or Alfred Demola, as he's known more formally, but most people know him as Ralph. So if you can just, if a few people could type in the chat there and say, yes, we can see you. Yes, we can hear you. And Ralph can get going. Yep, Kelly can see us. Brian is there. Arthur, Bob. It's all good. It's all good. They're all here. The gang is here again.
Hello.
So Ralph, I'm going to hand you, and you're going to tell us all about deploying your app to those pesky mobile platforms, right?
Correct. Hello, everyone. What I did here is I put together a series of 3 videos. The first one centered around iOS. The second one centered around Android. And the third one, a couple of extras and files that I've included and uploaded. There is a lot of material to cover. So it's almost like a Cliff Notes version. I go through a lot of material, but that's why I did it as a video, so that you can look at the video back and see all the different items and details you need to do to get yourself set up to deploy it once you have a stack running in the IDE. So let's get started. I'm going to start up on the first iOS one, and let's see how this goes. Load video. Okay, let's talk about getting your iOS device not only to the store but to your local device. After you've gotten your developer account, sign on to your developer account. Click on the account tab over here. And wait. And first thing you need, you got to go in here and do your certificates and IDs and provisioning profiles. Pretty straightforward to do the certificate. Right here, you can see I'm clicked on all, and I have my company's distribution certificate and the one I'm using for development. Adding one's pretty straightforward. You come in here. You know, for this example, it's either going to be an iOS development or an app store. You select one, you request it, you generate it, you download it, and then you double click on it in your downloads folder and it will install. Then next thing you need is an app ID. App IDs, as you see by the names of them on the right, they're doing reverse domain name, and so that generally is the way that people go with these. Whenever you create one of these, be warned, you can never delete it. It's in there forever, not possible to delete. So I got some tests and stuff down here that I was doing back in the beginning that are still hanging around. So now you have an app ID, you have your developer certificate. Now you need provisioning profiles. Now for development, you want to go to devices first, and you want to add in any new devices that you want to test on, and you just got to get the UUID. Do that with iTunes. Will get you the UUID, or you can get it in Xcode. And you add all your different devices, and these will be the only devices that you'll be able to load a development version onto outside of the App Store. Then you have to create a provisioning profile. Now, provisioning profiles, I always create 2 per app, a development and a distribution. And again, here it's pretty straightforward. You decide whether it's going to be development or an app store. In this case, if I say development, and shrink this window a little bit so that we can see this, and we continue. we got to select an app ID that we were talking about before with the reverse DNS on there, and select any one you want, and then you continue. Now I only have one development certificate, so I have to select that. Then here's the list of devices that I want to be able to allow this to go on. Continue, and you name the profile, and I'm not going to generate this. Then for distribution, actually a little easier, because when you go to App Store and you go continue, select an app ID. You just select your distribution, which I only have one. You get a name, and I'm not going to generate it, and you do that. Now, how do we get the provisioning profiles down into your Mac so LiveCode can use them? Okay. Now we're going to visit Mr. Xcode for a while here. Okay, a couple notes about Xcode. There should only be one version of Xcode in your applications folder, and it should be named xcode.app. I've had some weird problems with names and stuff, and this is the recipe that I've found that does work. Now I have another folder over here called Other Xcode Versions. These are the other earlier versions of Xcode. Never upgrade Xcode in place. Always rename it to whatever version it is, drag it out into your Other Xcode Versions folder, and then download from the developer portal the most recent version of Xcode that you want to use. Never get it from the App Store. Always go to the developer portal and download it. So I have some stuff, a bunch of old ones here. Some of them I really don't need. Haven't deleted them yet, and I got the really old versions in here. And those are some of the really old, one of the really old simulators. So let's go and see how this squares with LiveCode. We go to LiveCode, and we go to the preferences, and we go to our mobile support. You can see I have the available SDKs for 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I've done that by adding into add entry here for each version of Xcode. Now there are specific versions here that you use for each one of these. I found these are the most recent versions of that particular series to give us a 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 SDK and simulators. So let's look at what versions we have. Now for our 10, we have in our applications folder, we have Xcode. In my other Xcode versions, we're going to look, and we have 7.1.2, which is giving us 9. We got 6.2, which is giving us 8. We got 5.11, which is giving us 7, simulator for 7. And we have in our really old Xcode versions, we have 4.6.3 that gives you your 6. I've just kept letting them go on. You don't have to put all of these in here. I mean, all you really have to do is put the Xcode that's in the in your applications folder. And just to recap, only one version of Xcode in the applications folder. Put all your other versions into a folder elsewhere, and then link them in here. I also will get into Android later, but here's your Android stuff. Okay, next. There used to be a really nice way to look at your provisioning profiles, but we do have to download them, and in Apple's wisdom, they've decided that you can't look at your certificates in here, your provisioning profiles. We can look at our signing certificates, and we do want to click download all profiles. This will download any provisioning profiles that you have done through the Apple developer site. if you add a new device to a provisioning profile, you have to re-download all your profiles. So if we were up here and we decided that we were going to change this provisioning profile development, and we were going to add different devices, you'd come here, click it, generate, but then you have to make sure that you download all your profiles from the Xcode preferences. Once those are all downloaded, you in LiveCode you should see all your provisioning profiles. And under iOS, here are all the provisioning profiles that we saw up there. Now, very interesting. I did have to add a device to this top US dev, and it added a second entry. And of course, I didn't do anything about it, and I was still on the first one, generated an app, the new device couldn't download it. And I saw there now when you do, you can rename these and just generate new ones with new names. That's one way to do it, but it used to be in Xcode that you could see your provisioning profiles and delete them. There are tools to look in the folder where those are located, but that no longer seems to that tool I have not been able to get to work. So you're a little blind when it comes to provisioning profiles. The only place you can really see them good now is actually in LiveCode. You see I have a couple of these that I've done. So you basically have to go into the folder where those are located. And those are located in /library/mobile device/provisioning profiles. If you go into that folder and delete them all, you can get rid of all the duplicates, go back to your Xcode, and go to your preferences again, and re-download all your profiles, and you'll get rid of any duplicates out of there. It's a little kludgy, but it's the only way that you can do it now. In Xcode versions before 8.3, you could actually see every provisioning profile here, right-click on them and delete them, or even navigate to the folder where they were located, but that has been eliminated. Okay, now you have that. Now Apple, you're going to need to go to two websites to do it, to release something to the store. So when you do it, you select your distribution profile and save a standalone application, and it'll create a .app file. Once you have that .app file, you zip it, compress it, and then you can upload it to the store via the application loader. But before you do that, you have to go to the other half of the equation, which is iTunes Connect. And iTunes Connect is where all your apps are, and where you create new apps. So if you wanted to create a new one, you'd create a new app, and you'd go through the stuff and the dialogues, and eventually you'd wind up with the app. And there's things that you'll be filling in as you go along, and you got your app information, and you have pricing and availability, app information. Some of this stuff can't be changed right now because they're there, but your privacy policy, be sure to have that something going for some sort of privacy policy. And this is one of the customers, and they have their privacy policy, and I just put their web address in there. And when you actually have an app, when you come in to create the app the first time, you'll have to fill out all this information and have your screenshots ready, and a description, a build, This is where you'll be selecting a build from after you upload it with the application loader, which you can't do until you create a new release. So you create that new release, and there'll be a little plus sign here when there's nothing, and there'll be the application that you uploaded via the application loader will appear here. So for a second, we'll go back to Xcode, and we'll go to Developer Tool, and we'll get the application loader going. Okay, application loader, deliver your app, choose, and it'll basically want to find a compressed version of a .app, and make sure it's one that you produced with a distribution certificate. And you click on this, open it up, and it'll go through its process and upload it to the store. Once you're uploaded to the store, then you can go through, give any instructions you need to the reviewer, and any attachments that you might need, and then you could submit it. And after you do that and you hit save and everything's in there, a submit for review button will come up, and you click on that, and it'll ask you a couple more questions about cryptography and ads, and you answer that, and then it's submitted for review. Let's touch on in-app purchases. There's no big trick here to in-app purchases. You just go through and go through the process and create the type of in-app product you want. I'm not going to go through that type of detail, but what I'm going to do is going to get you to a gotcha. When you finally create one, it'll ask for a screenshot to show for the reviewer to know where it's being possibly used, and which I've never seen them look at. But the trick is that do not upload a screenshot until you're ready to submit it for review, because if you want to test it through the sandbox and not get charged, it has to be created. But if you create it fully, it'll get rejected by Apple because it's not attached to any app, and for some reason in like 24 hours it goes away and you have to re-edit it and reactivate it again. But if you just don't download a screenshot, it'll sit there in limbo land for live app, but it'll for the production release, but it will allow you to use it in a development an app generated with a development provisioning profile, and using a tester account for your Apple ID on that device, and it will come up and it will tell you that you're sandboxed and you can buy your in-app products all day long. And that is done in iTunes Connect. And we go back to iTunes Connect front page, and you go to users and roles, and you got different people here, and we're going to go to sandbox testers. And here's our sandbox testers, and you can add a new one and assign it a password. One thing you can't do is you can't reset the password, and if you forget the password, make sure that the person has a real email address and it isn't a phony email address, and for them to try and recover that, because there's nothing you can do about it from here except delete the person. So then you have this guy, jbttester@julesboard.com. Give it a name, and that person, when they're testing the app, if they're signed in with that Apple ID on their device, they will not get charged, and it'll, when the do you want to buy it or not prompt comes up from iOS, it will say that you don't have any, that you're not going to get charged, and that's going to be sandboxed. That is the quick overview of getting things, an iOS app, out to the store. There isn't every detail there, but what I tried to do is hit the gotchas. So now you say you have a you generated a development ID and you want to install it on one of these devices. We'll go to here, and I'm sure we can find one here, and there's a .app file, and you just drag it from here and you drag it right over into your Xcode, and it'll ask you if you want to replace the app. You can also delete apps here, highlight it, click the minus button, delete it directly off the device. Here's a little note here. This iPad is running 11.0 for testing, so this version of Xcode is not compatible because I haven't upgraded to the new version of Xcode yet. So, but this, if you see this yellow triangle here, it doesn't affect your testing. You can still drag apps onto there and delete them. We're going to talk about other ways to distribute your test versions on the in the third segment. There's some tools I want to make available to everybody, and we'll talk about those in the third segment. But for now, I think we covered the generally where you have to go through to get your app out to the store. I didn't go through every detail. I don't have time to go through here. We don't have time to go through every single screen. But I was just trying to hit the major points, because this is the stuff that I had a problem with in the beginning. Is I just needed a roadmap, and if I would have had this roadmap, I wouldn't have had to figure it out and write it myself. So it would have saved me a lot of time, and I hope it saves you a lot of time. We'll have some questions now, and segment 2 will be on Android. We're back. You got my audio there? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I think we got that weird. Oh no, you got rid of the echo. Okay. Yeah, we're going to get directly to the Android, because if I have some time at the end, there's another tool I have that I'd like to make available if I can demo it, if people think it's useful. So let's get right to the Android side of the equation and see what we got. So we'll start this right now. We're back to look at the Android stuff, but before we do that, I just want to make a quick mention. Something that'll get you is if you've installed, and this applies to both iOS and Android, a development version on a device, and then try and overlay a distribution version, it won't work, and likewise the other way around. In fact, the test version of Android app will not overlay if they're generated on different machines, because the key they use for testing is self-generated and changes on every machine. So you can't even do that on Android for multiple machines. But yeah, just make sure that you don't get into I can't install the iOS app. Well, maybe that's because you have your store version on there. You just made version 2.0. You send it out and people try to install it and they can't do it. So what they have to do is uninstall the store version and then install the development version. So you get the picture. But anyway, let's get back to Android. Download the SDK and unzip it. I did it to the desktop here, put it into this folder, Android SDK. Go to the Tools menu and open up Android. That'll give you a screen like this. The only things I downloaded to build an Android app is the SDK tools, the platform tools, the build tools, and the SDK platform for Android 2.2 API 8. And that seems to be all I need to do to create one. So if we go back to LiveCode and we look at the preferences, we'll see that it's pointing to that folder, and you also need the Java virtual machine, and that you need to install 1.8, and you got to be careful that you don't upgrade this, because newer versions of this do not work. At least it's been reported as such. So I've been sticking with this version, and it still seems to generate Android apps with no problem. So let's look at the go and look at the standalone settings for the Android. Again, we're talking about a reverse DNS here for the name of it. Version name, I've been putting the date in. I've been putting the version code in. And down here, sign with my key. And there is, you got to point to a key store. Key store is how the encryption is done and how you identify yourself to the Google Play Store. So let's take a look at the Key Store. I would recommend downloading a program called Key Store Explorer, because it saves you from having to do a lot of command line stuff. So when you open it up, you get it like this, and we'll open up an existing Key Store, and I got mine right there. Now, Key Store password, very important. Cannot lose this password. If you do, you'll never be able to update an app on the Play Store. If you lose the Key Store file, likewise, cannot be recreated. Make sure it's backed up. Make sure the passwords are backed up, triple backed up, because you will not be able to update the app if you lose either the passwords or the Key Store. So I'm going to put in my Key Store password. And I typed it wrong, of course. Okay, so here's all the stuff in my Key Store, and take a look at one of these here, and this is what it's going to look like when it's done. And let's show what we got to do here to get done. You go up here to generate a key pair. You want the RSA with 2048. Generates the key pair. You want to, I believe Google now has a minimum period of 20 years, I believe. I always put in, 40 years or something way out. And down here where you see name, got to click on here and fill in the blanks here. Common name, the name of your app, your organization, company name, unit you're in, locality, city, United States, state, country. And after that's done, let's see here, we can just put in, test app, my company, IT dev, as an org. Oh, I reversed this, but sorry there. IT dev, my company, locality, my town, state name, New York, country, US. Hit OK. Got everything in here. Signature algorithm, SHA-256 with RSA. And you say OK. And then you ask for the alias. This alias is the name that you're going to enter when you actually generate the standalone for the app. And you say OK. And now here's a secondary password. This password, again, can't forget this password. And the key pair generation is successful, and test app is down here. So when you actually generate your Android app, you need to know both of those passwords: the password for the key store and the password for the particular key pair that you generated for a particular app. And they have to be unique for every app that you put into the Play Store. So get rid of this. Now, one thing I didn't touch on the iOS are the icons and splash screens, and we'll get to that in the third segment using some tools that I've uploaded as attachments in the up on the Google Drive, so that you can download these. Okay, good. So we got our key store assigned. We got to do that. We got to go to the Play Store now and to the Google Developer Console and take a look at what we got going in here. So you create a new app in here, and you go through the standard drill here, and you go down and you add all your stuff. Again, screenshots, we're going to get into that on the third segment along with the icon. Nothing special in here. You just go through each one of these items one by one. Pricing and distribution. Manage your countries, whether you have ads or not. Got to do your content rating. In-app products. Back again. Nothing special here. Nothing weird, like don't download the don't upload the screenshot for your in-app so that you can use it while you're in development. None of that craziness here. You just create it, give it a name, and a type, and you can set your prices down in here, and create your in-app products that way. Look at the LiveCode examples on the website of how to do in-app purchasing, but these are the names you use. You'll see these same names on the iOS side. I use the exact same names here, and you got that. Okay. The only other thing you need to go to is where is that listing now? Oh, there it is. App signing. Nope, wrong. Where was I? I'm sorry, I looked at this before. Oh, services and APIs. Okay. The only thing for in-app purchasing that you need here is this big long key here, and this is the RSA public key, and this is unique to every app. You copy it out of there, and you stick it down here where public key is, and the store name is Google. You'll see that if you go to different stores, you see different stuff. Amazon, nothing to do there. Samsung is a little different, and Google, you put in that big long key and you just paste it in here, and that allows you to do in-app purchases. So as far as Android goes, there is nothing crazy because you don't have to go through an approval process. You just go through here, do everything, and then you get into your app releases, and you have production builds, beta builds, and alpha builds, and you can send those out to people. If we go to manage beta, we have we have the thing in here, but we go and we look at how we set our users in. I created a Google group and put a bunch of our testers into the Google group so that they can test. Now, one gotcha with testing in-app purchases for Android is that you cannot do a sandbox purchase on any device which currently or ever had the same email that you registered your Google developer account with. So if you registered your Google account with ralphdemola@gmail.com, and then I go to my device and I have my ralphdemola.gmail.com because that's my email address, I can't do test purchases on that. And even if you add a second account and make that in the Play Store app, even if you select a different account, a tester account, you still can't buy in the sandbox. You have to use another device or make sure that you've never signed in with your device to the account, to the Play Store account that you registered your developer account through. So just remember that. I went crazy one day, couldn't get it to do a sandbox buy, and finally found that little ditty buried somewhere in the documentation. So that one can definitely bite you. Once you go through, this is actually pretty easy to do when you go through this because it'll tell you what you haven't done yet, and you just go through, and go through each one of the store presence items one by one, putting everything in you want, and eventually you can move something into production from the beta. We go back to the beta. If I had a release here, and what I did is I promoted it to production, and a beta tester one will come up here. Another thing about in-app purchasing is that you have to have the app uploaded to the beta area or the alpha area before you can do in-app purchases in the sandbox. It'll tell you that purchases are not available at this time. So when you want to have a tester do it, you have to have the exact same version with the exact same version name and version code up on the Play Store beta site or the production site, and have that same exact version there, and it takes a couple hours to propagate. So if you want to make some changes to one of your apps and have users do more testing of in-app purchasing, keep the version name the same, because if you keep changing the version name, it's going to take an hour or two sometimes for the uploaded version into the beta testing area here to propagate through Google Play so that you can do your in-app purchases. And that one got me before, because I created a new version for somebody, changed the version number back in here, but never uploaded this version to Google Play, so the user couldn't do any in-app purchase testing. So those are the that's about all you need to do to get a Google app up there. You just, when you want to build it, you just do your usual save as standalone application, and you can do that, or you can hit the test button and select a test target and test. I don't have any Android devices on here right now, but you can see all the simulators for the iPads. and the various devices that I have here. I can test directly to device if I want, but I normally just produce the app and drag it over. Now, one thing I want to show here that's going to apply to the third segment is how to make an IPA. This has become kind of a touchy thing lately. The newest version of iTunes does not support apps anymore. They're going more back to their roots of being music. So what I used to do is drag the iOS.app file into iTunes, and then there was a folder that they put all the stuff in, and they converted to the IPAs. An IPA is nothing more than a payload folder with a capital P, and you drop the .app file into the payload folder and then zip that whole thing up, and you have a .ipa. The reason we're talking about a .ipa is because I'm going to be, when I get over to the other machine, I'm going to be showing you the way to deliver your iOS apps via a web server to any of your testers. So keep that in mind, that if you're using an older version of iTunes, you can just drag your app in there, and this mobile applications folder will have the will produce the .ipa. You can see where this was located. It's in your underneath your username, music, iTunes Media, mobile applications, and but that is no longer going to be available if you have the latest version of iTunes. So again, if you need to create a .ipa, create a payload folder with capital P, put your .app inside there and zip up the payload folder, rename it to a .ipa, and you're good to go as far as IPAs, as far as needing an IPA. And we'll get to that, because we're going to be going over to another machine. I'm going to be showing you some of the utilities that I've uploaded, and how to do a server install of your iOS test apps. Androids are easy. You just drop them onto the server, the APK onto a server, and send somebody the address on the server. And if they click on that link on their phone, on their Android phone, it'll just download the APK and attempt to install it, as long as on the device you have allowed third-party apps to be installed. So there's no problem, sending somebody, say your testers, an email with a link on where to install your Android app. You can produce a test. You can produce a test version if you want. Or what I normally do is I sign with a key for my testers, and then use that actual APK to upload to Google Play. Because I know it's the exact same one that they've been using, and only time I ever use testing in there is while doing debugging. If I want to if I want to keep doing a bunch of tests down into an app, and doing remote debugging and whatnot. So that, I think, covers the general idea. Again, I wasn't trying to get into all the details here, but I just wanted to try and give a general roadmap on all the different components that come together. So I think that does it for Android right now. I guess what I'll do is we're going to stop this video. If you guys have any questions, we can answer them, and then I'll get on with the tools that I've supplied that make some of this job easier. And we'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, we're back. Okay, I don't see any questions. I see one question here about the version of the SDK, and I'm just looking now. Let's see here, preferences. I'm using JDK 1.8 1.0/121. I've had no problem upgrading to the most recent version on the Windows machine, but people have had problems going to the most recent version. So every time that a warning comes up, do you want to update your Java? I decline on the iOS side. But we're starting to get close to the end here, so I'd like to start this other video so I could show you some of the tools that I've supplied. And like I told Heather, proudly displaying the Kickstarter. Thank you up there. Kickstarter going open source, one of the best things that ever happened. We should all be thankful that we made it past that hurdle. And let's look at the tools that I've uploaded, and should make generating the massive amounts of screenshots you need, especially if you go into two platforms and all the different size devices that are required. This will make things a lot easier for you. So I'm going to load this up now and play this video. Hey everyone, wanted to show you a couple of utilities here that I've included, I've uploaded. These are in Ralph DeMola codesamples.txt. Drop these into a stack and you'll be able to run them too. They do three things. One, generate the icons needed for your standalone. Two, generate the splash screens needed for iOS. And also the screenshots that you want to upload to the store to showcase your app. First thing we're going to start off is the iOS splash screens. I'm going to delete these, show you how they're created. We're going to go to splash screens, to splash. Okay. Down here you see export iOS splash screens. This runs on the assumption that your app properly resizes, depending on what size the app is, like this. No matter how you do it, using your own, rolling your own, or using the LiveCode functionality, you have to have the screen resizing. So we simply do this, run this command. This is the path to this folder with a prefix on it called my app, and we'll just run this and see what happens. Okay, now that we're done, you see dumped into this folder are all the splash screens you need in the standalone settings for your iOS app. Utility number two, the icons. What I normally do is in my my stacks, I make one card to have just a what the icons are going to be, and we're going to use the export icons, was included in that code sample that I uploaded. And we're going to go to icons. We're going to again prefix it with my app. So if we hit return here, you can see this thing flashing all over the place. And we look in the folder here, and here's your one for your Android app, your iOS ones, the Play Store, and all the different sizes that you need for your iOS icons, because they require ones for each one of the different one for each one of the devices. And here you see both Android and Play Store. Okay, that is, one is for the app and one is for the Play Store. You have the iStore one here, which is the one that you use for the iStore. So this in one shot generates all those, assuming you're using a common icon, and you have a card set up with it, and everything resizes. Last thing we're going to do is going to take a look at how to generate screenshots to showcase your app. Again, there is a in the uploads, there is a export screenshots, and we'll go to that folder here. And you're obviously going to do a few of these, because you got a minimum of, I think, 3 on some of them, but normally do like 5 or so screenshots to showcase your app. And that can be a long and tedious process, because as we'll watch this run here, you're going to see how many files get redone. Of course, it's flashing all over the place, making all the different sizes it needs to do, and then exporting the pings for you. Some of them are quite large. Okay, that's done. Now, you can see how valuable this can be here, because if you put up 5 screenshots, even if you get rid of the Amazon, you still have, for iOS, a 3.5, 4.7, a 4, a 5.5, an iPad Pro landscape, iPad Pro portrait. So there's a lot here, and then you have your Android device, Android feature, Android promo. So if you're not doing Amazon, you can 1, 2, 3 get rid of 3. If you're not doing tvOS, you get rid of another one, but you can still see that there's 16 items in here, even if we get rid of the few that we don't need. And you figure you want to do 5 splash pages, 5 screenshots in your app. There's a lot of manual stuff going on, and this just makes it that much easier to generate those. And again, that code is in the file that I uploaded in the Ralph DeMola code samples. And next thing I want to do is show you the how we're going to do a server install of both iOS and Android. As I said before, the Android's easy. Drop the APK into your server folder, and on your server folder, you're going to put in the images, this HTML file, this IPA, and this plist. You're going to find this uploaded into a zip file that's called Ralph DeMola iOS server install. This IPA is dummy. I just created it. It's not even in the zip file. I just created just to show you that on your actual server, you're going to have this file, this file, this file, and this file. The yourapp.html is what you point your users to. Has to be HTTPS. And you modify these files so that you can install the app onto, send somebody the link of this HTML file. They click on the link on their iOS device, and if they're an authorized tester in the provisioning profile, boom, it'll download. We'll just take a quick look at these files and show you what you have to change in here. HTML file is very simple. It's lame. You can make it fancy if you want, make it look good, but it's only for testers. This is a title you put on the page. This is the HTTPS link to the plist file, which we'll look at in a minute. And an iOS device, click here to install your app name. That can be any description here, just like the title can. The only thing that's really critical in here is that this HTTPS has to point to your app.plist. So if we close this and we go and we look at your app.plist, there's a few more things in here to change. Okay, here's the link to the IPA, and that has to be done again on an HTTPS. And you just go to your server and your app.ipa. That's how it's going to know what to install. Down here, this is your reverse DNS. It has to be the same things in the iOS standalone settings. Your version number, that's in the iOS standalone settings, and a title. And your app name, that's not really critical there. You set all this stuff up correctly and you send your tester a link to this HTML file, they click on it and boom, they install it. And those are the extra utilities. I think this will, if you want to use these, will save you a lot of time generating your icons and screenshots and splash pages, and also being able to easily distribute the app out to your testers without having to play with iTunes or anything like that. They just click on this link and it's a done deal. This images folder just has the icon in it that displays when you open up the web page. And that's it for the special items that I've uploaded. And we'll have a few more questions. I think we'll probably have time for a few more, and we'll see in a minute.
That was great, Ralph. It's brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have a minute still, or are we running up against?
You can take some questions. You carry on and
okay, I'm going to share my screen just for a second, just to show you a tool that I created that I haven't uploaded and I don't really have install files for yet, but I'm thinking of doing it if there's. We go in here. I created this plugin called my Android Remote Tester. What this is that these devices are not plugged in to this Mac. These devices are actually plugged into my Windows machine. The reason I created this is because on my Windows machine I work in VMs, and I came to realize after I set up my VMs that I had no way of doing any testing to my Android devices, because the VM, although it can set up a VM of a Win 10 Pro can see your files, it can't actually talk to the device. So I created the client and the server end. So right now over on my Windows 10 machine, which is what we saw the last video on, there's a server process running that I even have a way to do it so that it runs as a Windows service. So over on that, and I have the files to create that to run as a Windows service. I haven't figured out how to do it on a Mac yet, but that's my next step, to run it as a background service. But suffice it to say, if we disconnect here, we'll say I want to connect to the server. This IP address is the IP address of the Windows machine. I say connect to server. The server goes out and it finds all the Android devices that are plugged into the USB ports of that of my Windows 10 host machine, and you can say, okay, I want to install something to this device. And you go down here, and if you pull down here, you'll see the stack here. I've even hooked into things so that if I go to the standalone settings and go to Android and disable Android, you'll see over here that stack no longer appears in there. So, but if I enable the Android and come back here, the stack is in there. So if I take this stack here, and we can get rid of this for right now. And I say I want to put a test build into this machine. Now, one thing you can do is you say I got 3 Android devices, and I want to install it to all 3 at the same time, so I don't got to hit that test button on the LiveCode toolbar 3 times after going to the development menu and selecting 3 different machines. You can install it to all 3 at the same time. It also gives you the ability to build a test or build a signed at the same time. So you could build a signed APK and install it to all 3 machines with just a press of one button and walk away and go get yourself a cup of tea or a pint if you wish. So just as a test here to show you how I've hooked it into the IDE, and just for any of you people that are interested, the LiveCode has, because the IDE is written in LiveCode, you can really get in there and really integrate plugins directly into a lot of stuff inside the IDE. It was amazingly simple, actually. So we'll just say to this device here, I want to build a test, and I want to install it. You have the option of whether you want to launch the app after it's installed. So I hit this. This is real now. Now I've hooked into the IDE. It's realized that I've made some changes to the app because of bringing up the standalone applications dialog, and I say save, and I'll save this as an earlier version. There's a reason for that. Now, if you notice here, we're going through the standard inclusions and standalone builder progress. But then again, I've hooked into this. So when it's done, the Android remote tester starts doing things. Now you see things that you've never seen in here before, because now I'm doing a socket communication, a socket file transfer of the APK over to the Windows machine, and for some reason, coming from the iOS going over to the Windows machine, it runs kind of slow, although this is a big APK. But when I'm on my Windows machine on a VM, it actually goes probably 4 times as quick as this. So there's something going on that I have to figure out on why the file transfer to a Windows machine works. Now, another interesting thing here is that you could have this server on somebody else's machine and someplace else on the other side of the country, and if you leave the thing on it, he leaves his device on his desk plugged into the USB port, and when you want to give him a new build, you could just click on this, and it would instantly appear on his device and launch it. Now that I trying to fill in a few seconds here while this is moving. And just about done here now. Of course, it seems like it takes a lot longer when you're when you're waiting to when you're doing a demo than it does when you're going out to get your cup of tea. In my case, my philosophy is drink tea. Oh, now I had a file error when it transferred. Of course, it's a demo, and we do it. But this is there was some reason why that I lost a packet somewhere going across there, which I've actually never seen since my my testing days of this. In fact, I just tested this earlier while one of the videos was running to make sure it worked, and it worked. But see the status window here came up that the file that it was aborted, and oh, must be some problem on the Windows side. Of course, let me see here if I can see what's going on here on the Windows side. See, I just restarted the server. I use this daily, and it's almost kind of amazing that it died like this on me, because I use it constantly. Try it one more time. See if we can't get it to work. You know how it always goes with the demos. You know, Ollie had his issues, and of course we had the augmented Earth disconnection disaster. But that actually turned out well, because he was able to reconnect. Hopefully, I can reconnect just as well.
There's always this thing with doing things live, you know, it's part of the excitement. You don't know when something's going to go wrong.
I know. I know. But I you know, there could be a little bug, maybe part of why it's slow from the going from the issue of why it's slow coming from the Android from the Mac to the Windows Windows server. That might be why it dropped that packet or got locked up, because I use it on my Windows VM like, you know, every day constantly, and I've actually been surprised how flawlessly it's been running all, you know, for about I guess almost the past year now, because I made my Windows machine just at my Windows 10 VMs just about a year ago now, and I got tired of worrying about if my my Windows machine crashes and I don't have the right backup, or the hardware goes bad. Forget about a hard drive. You know, if you lose the motherboard or something, you know, then you have to rebuild a whole machine with the development environment, and that's why I went to I went to VMs on the Windows side. Come on. We're up to 7.
Yes, you're right.
What was that, Heather?
I was saying that Jerry said your philosophy is tea. I said, yes, tea is a great thing, Jerry. It solves most problems.
Yes.
Go have a cup of tea, Ralph, and it will complete.
Yes. Well, my philosophy is drink tea while you're working, and then when you sit and you relax on the weekend, then it's time to do some serious pints. Work hard, play hard. Here we are, 90. Give me 100%, baby. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not going to. No, there it is. A thing verifies the APK installing. You see, I'm using the standalone build in progress window because the good folks over at LiveCode have given me the ability to hook into this stuff. So now the status is that it's installing into my tablet right now, and this install will not work because I have a production version on the tablet. It's going to give me an inconsistent key because I'm trying to overwrite one of the issues I talked about earlier, is that you can't install a development version from two different machines. Now, the error I got was install parse failed inconsistent certificates, because this is a development version from the Mac, where this development version that was on this device actually came from the Windows machine. But this actually did work here. It went in there, installed it, realized that there was an inconsistent certificate, couldn't install it, and gave me the test here. You noticed I even put the error up here. And then you have the scrolling window down here that shows you all your status, and all this stuff is, you know, completely resizable, and make anything any size you want. But, you know, I found it useful because I was working on Windows VMs and I couldn't talk to my Android devices. So I built this for me. But if anybody feels that there's anything useful with this for them, you know, let me know, and I'll put some packages together and distribute it out with some install instructions. I don't have any installers for it, but I think for most of us that would do something like this, I think a set of instructions would probably work. And again, you can build the signed and install. And we're just going to do this real quick because this is one thing that I did not cover in the video, is where you enter the key store information. This will happen real quick here because we're not going to wait for it to transfer. I just want to show you, this is standard build. This is the key store alias. That was when I was back talking about the key store, and the very last step was to do the alias. You put in your alias, my app, and then you need, of course I spelled app wrong, and then it's going to ask you for the key store password. That was the first password that you can't lose, and then it asked you for the private password. That was for the key pair that you generated. The other password you can't possibly forget. You got to write down a million places, and you say okay. And of course, this is going to fail because I just typed junk in there. But I actually didn't show where you type that stuff in. So I just wanted to quick do that now that I thought of it. And let's see here. We'll get back to back to me. Get rid of this video.
Great.
The video feedback. Come on. Oh, I got to unshare the screen first.
Yes. Yeah.
So I see there are a couple of people that would like this. So I'm going to spend some extra time and try and put together some install instructions. Like I said, if you're running the server on the Windows machine, which is where it was running, and I just reset it because something must have gone sideways because it was a demo. Of course, that's the axiom of demos. But yeah, if people are interested, and I'll put it in. I have the server. The server runs on. I've had it running on iOS, rather on Mac, and on Windows. And I've had the plugin client running on 64-bit Linux and Windows 10, Windows XP for that matter. I tested it on because I had an old machine. I had to dig in one day, and I was curious. And obviously the Mac, because we saw the plugin running on the Mac. Yeah, Murphy does strike again, Dirk. Thank you very much. So I think that's about it, unless anyone had any real questions. I hope I helped you, give you a little bit of a roadmap to try and get through this process.
Well, I thought that was really great, and clearly everybody else did as well. So yeah, well, they're all longing for the replay, I can see, and they're going to be going over it with a fine-tooth comb for all that great information.
Oh man, I'm missing out on a pint from Tom. That's the worst part of this whole day. That's even worse. That's even worse than me losing communication to the Android remote tester server.
It's a shame, isn't it? It's yeah, that's the only thing about the remote thing, is you can't do those nice physical interactions. But
or have people teach you how to dance in that beautiful old building.
Oh wow, yes. Well, maybe next time. Maybe next time.
Well, just real quick, what was that building? I always tell people about how gorgeous that building was with the staircases and everything. What was that building originally?
Now then. The one that we had the last conference in, that was originally
No, where they did the dancing with that band that time.
Yeah. Dancing. I don't know offhand. I don't think.
It was the one that's every Tuesday night, I think, or something.
Yeah. It was a fantastic place. I don't know, but I tell you what, I'll ask Eleanor.
Yeah, and those cats that played, they rocked. But very good. So I'm glad everyone enjoyed it. I'll put something together on the remote tester and offer that out to everyone. And I'll send you. I'm going to send you an email, Heather, and find out where's the best place to post that. Whether I want to do some link or stick it actually up on the LiveCode site, or whatever you think is the best way to get it to everyone.
Sure. I mean, if you want to put it into that folder where all the other speaker stuff is, then I can.
Yeah, the thing is, it's going to take me a little while. It may take me a week or two to package it all together. That's what that's why. All
right. Well, you drop me a line when it's done, and I'll make sure it gets to everybody, and we can work out where to put it.
Okay, great, everyone. Thank you for listening. I appreciate all the thanks.
Thank you so much, Ralph. So yeah, guys, we'll be back in just a few minutes with Mark Toluto. Don't miss the last session. It's not by any means the least session. And he has titled his talk, Everything We Use is a Database Application, which sounds interesting. So I'm going to terminate this one now and say goodnight to Ralph. And then we will be back. So don't go away, people. Bye.